Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another edition of the Opposition Preview. First things first, guys, make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. And on Sunday, Chelsea go in search of a much-needed victory against Aston Villa at Stamford Bridge. This fixture last year turned out to be Graham Potter's last in charge. So what a difference it makes this time round. But Chelsea still struggling. Villa, strong start to the season. Three wins and 2 defeats. Coming off the back of a defeat in the Conference League on Thursday night, though. Maybe Chelsea can possibly take some advantage of that. But to dive into all things Villa, get the Villa perspective on the game, I'd like to be joined by Simon from Villa on Tour. Mate, thanks for coming. Appreciate your time as always. Just wanted to start off by, just under a year ago, mate, I was up at Villa Park when we won 2-0. Gerrard's, I think, last game, or certainly one of his very last games, the atmosphere around the club wasn't good. But in just under a year, Unai Emery's come in and things have changed and looking really, really positive. I think you're third or fourth in the calendar year for points. So what exactly has Emery done in the time he's been here to transform Villa? Because under Gerrard, it was pretty dark.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was pretty dark. And I think Steven Gerrard at the time was working with a good set of players, and he was totally underachieving, to be honest, at the time. And obviously Emery came in. He set about changing everything, really. I think the mindset was the main thing. He wanted a winning mentality to run throughout the club, which hadn't been there for a long time. Tactically, he's just so astute. Emery, you see it during games. He's changed his tactics numerous times throughout a game. He sets a totally different game plan up for every single opposition that you come up against, and he keeps you guessing. Really, as a fan, you sort of come away from every game thinking, "Oh, that's something we haven't seen before." And so I just think it's his experience. His experience as an elite level coach, and the coaches he's brought with him to the backroom setup at Villa. I just think it's totally transformed how the players work, and I think some of them in particular, the likes of like John McGinn and Tyrone Mings, have said that they've never worked under such a technical sort of coach before. They've never had that sort of in-depth level of coaching before from many of their managers, and they'd wish they'd worked with somebody like Emery like previously in their careers. And so yeah, I mean, to be honest, he came in under at a time where he wasn't under a lot of pressure. I mean, he was able to sort of set his stall out at Villa and think anything was an improvement because it was that bad under Gerrard. And obviously last season we were beating the likes of Man United at home in his first game, which was Villa. I mean, just to put that into perspective, Villa hadn't beaten Man United at home since 1996, and so he got that monkey off his back literally within his first week at the club. And then it progressed from there. Really, we set our stall up fairly good away from home. We were quite tough to beat away from home. We nicked results, and then the home form was the worry. And it came to about February time when we lost to Leicester and Arsenal in quick succession at home. And something just changed. He found a winning formula at home. He found his ideal starting 11, and then obviously we went on that incredible sort of 10-game unbeaten run towards the end of the season. And I think if we're being honest, I think we overachieved in the end. I think we finished 7th, which was an incredible achievement for Villa, seeing as where they were sort of this time last year, like last October. And so we probably did overachieve, but I think that towards the end of last season, we were just so strong, and anyone that came to Villa Park knew that they were going to be in for a real game. And yeah, it felt like he'd really got us to a point where we were really going to kick on, sort of thing. And that's the hope with Villa fans. Obviously, this summer's brought a little bit of a transitional phase again with certain injuries and some new signings coming in. And so he's back to the drawing board a little bit in terms of working at his best 11, his best tactics again, and obviously with a lot more games with the Conference League and obviously the Carabao and FA Cup alongside the Premier League. I think it'll be a tough season for Villa to replicate what they did last year, but it's exciting times. It's exciting times. All the fans are behind Emery. He's universally liked. He's got the keys to the castle kind of thing at Villa Park. And yeah, everyone's really excited about the direction the club's going at the moment.
Yeah, no, I think obviously Villa's a massive football club, and it's good to see them doing well. Again, you made some great signings over the summer, as you touched on. Obviously for me, I'm sure it's the same for Villa fans. I've not watched an awful lot of Villa, but I think the big signing this summer, you made some great signings. Pau Torres, I think Tielemans is a decent signing. But for me, the standout one, Moussa Diaby, he's had a great start to the season. I think he's popped up with a couple of goals, few assists here and there. Just how important was it for Villa to get a player like Diaby, because he's made such a difference? And do you think he can be a real standout for you this season and kind of push you on a bit more? Because you've got Ollie Watkins up there. I know Buendia's out, but you've brought in Zaniolo on loan as well, which is a good signing for the club. You've got Leon Bailey there as well. Like, there's some really good attacking options.
Yeah, I think there's a few. I think there's a few things with Diaby. I think Villa knew that they wanted that kind of second striker to play in behind Ollie Watkins. I think that's what Villa set the stall out this summer in terms of what their number one target was. And it's probably surprised a lot of people because Diaby has never actually played in that role before. He's usually been an out and out winger for Leverkusen off the right. And yet he's playing in this second sort of striker role for Villa, and I've got to say he's absolutely thriving in it. I mean, he's walked straight into Villa's team and become, you know, probably the best attacking player in the side. It's difficult to. He's quite unique, really. He's got a really unique skill set. Diaby. He's really quick. He's really powerful, but he's really direct as well. He's got in his mind exactly what he wants to do. He gets that byline. He'll get the ball in, or he'll use that turn of pace to really drive at defenses, and something we haven't had a lot of really in a way. And his arrival has also spurred on other players as well. Obviously, Leon Bailey's been a little bit in and out over the last couple of seasons, but he worked alongside Diaby at Leverkusen, and so they've struck up a decent partnership, especially at Villa Park. I mean, Bailey's been kind of unplayable at Villa Park so far this season. It's working out his form away from home, because when we do go away from Villa Park, his form tends to dip a little bit. But in terms of Diaby, he was an incredible signing for Villa, and I think when you look at so some of the bigger sides, when you look at Man City buying Doku, for instance, and Arsenal obviously buying Havertz, you look at that and you think, I'm surprised some of the bigger clubs weren't in for him, especially for the money that we paid. I mean, there's some fees being sort of bandied around by the media, by Sky, and they're talking about how Diaby cost Villa 55 million, which isn't true. If you look at it, Villa didn't break the transfer record to sign him, so he must have been less than 37 million what we paid for Buendia. And so for the money that we paid, he's been an absolutely incredible acquisition. And I think for Villa to have a good season, he'll be really key to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and just in terms of your start to the season, then has it gone how you expected at Villa? Are you pleased with the start? Obviously, you know, the 3 wins and then the 2 defeats on the road at Newcastle on the opening day and at Anfield. I mean, has it gone pretty much the script for you guys, or do you think you should have done a bit better? How are you looking at it so far after the first 5 games?
I suppose on paper, if you said if you said we were going to beat Everton, Crystal Palace, and Burnley, and then lose to Liverpool and Newcastle, it's kind of we've kind of done what was expected, I suppose. But I suppose if you really like drill down to those 2 individual away games at Newcastle and Liverpool, I think Villa fans will be disappointed purely for the fact that many people last season were sort of saying Villa are sort of in that same bracket as Newcastle, and over the summer we're in the same sort of bracket as Newcastle. We'll be challenging them. Opening day of the season was a tough one. We lost Buendia to his ACL injury only 2 days before the game. We lost Mings to the same injury during the game, and that kind of rocked us, I think, that day. And it wasn't. I think if anyone watching the game would have realised it wasn't a 5-1 game. That wasn't. It really wasn't. There was some really poor defending from Villa's part, but the volume of chances and play that Villa actually had that game, it was never a 5-1 game. And so I think it rocked us, if I'm being honest. I do think it rocked us. Obviously, we followed it up with a really good 4-0 win over Everton the following week. And then obviously Liverpool away, again, we weren't great at Liverpool, if I'm being totally honest. But again, we had chances, but we weren't ruthless again. And unfortunately, Liverpool were ruthless that day, and we got soundly beaten, to be fair, on the day 3-0. And so I think the start of the season has been kind of what you would expect on paper. I think the injuries have rocked us, definitely. I think we lost 2 real key players, and especially if you look at Tyrone Mings. Obviously, I know outside of the Villa circle, he's had a bit of stick over the last few years, Tyrone Mings. But since Emery's come in, he's been one of the most consistent performers, and he's such a leader in that Villa team. He's so unique as a centre half. He's that kind of battering ram centre half, but he's got such great recovery pace, and you know he's going to be there to be able to mop up. And I think Villa have found it difficult defensively early on in the season, purely for the fact that they've had to kind of throw Pau Torres in, which I don't think Emery really wanted to do. On top of that, we've also been missing Moreno, left back, who has been really key for us. We've been missing Jacob Ramsey as well. And this is all down your left-hand side. So you're talking about Mings, Moreno, Buendia and Jacob Ramsey are all left-sided players, and so players have been shunted out of their positions to fill. So we've had John McGinn over on the left-hand side, which is not his favoured position. And so Emery's been really tweaking formations, really sort of looking at the different players to play, different systems. And if I'm being honest, I don't think he's quite found that system yet. I think we are back in a transitional phase because of the injuries that we've had. It's hard, isn't it? I don't think any club can go out and replace, like an ACL injury, like on the eve of the season. It's physically impossible, isn't it? And then when you have two within the space of 24 hours or so, to two of your key players, that's really difficult. And so the thing that I've been saying to Villa fans is that we might have a bit of a rocky road up until Christmas time, especially defensively. But I think it will settle down. I think the players will get used to working with each other again. Just frustrating. I think Villa were set for a real good go this year, and I think the injuries have kind of set us back a little bit. But yeah, it's the away form we've got to sort out defensively. Away from home, we have to sort that out. Otherwise, Villa will be in for a difficult season, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the same problem with injuries. We had 12 missing for the last game against Bournemouth, key players out for a long time. I know we've got like the squad to kind of deal with it, but it's not the same. It isn't the same as having those players available. And I think testament to Villa as well. Like, obviously, you said you struggled a little bit defensively, having to chuck Torres in straight away. But with the additions you've made in the summer, you haven't only got depth in the squad, you've now got quality and depth as well. So with Buendia being out, obviously, ideally, like him available, but it's not a complete disaster when you've got Bailey, when you've got Watkins, when you've got Diaby as well. There are options there to cover it off. But let's throw it ahead to the game Sunday. Then obviously you beat us last year 2-0. I think McGinn scored a great goal in that one, if my memory serves me correctly. What do you think Villa have got to do to get a positive result? Because as you said, on your two big away games so far this season, not really turned up. What needs to be done differently? I mean, for us, we've got one win in our last 10 Premier League home games, and that was against Luton, who are probably going to get beaten by the majority of the teams in the league this season. You got to fancy your chances. I mean, how much of an impact do you think Thursday night's game is going to have on this one as well?
In terms of the impact on the game from Thursday night, I don't think it'll have much impact, and I think Emery openly kind of said that last night we rotated the squad quite heavily. We made 5 changes to the team last night in Poland, which a lot of Villa fans were surprised with. We thought we'd go full strength, and you look back at that and you think, was that a bit of an error, especially with the defeat last night? But the likes of Watkins, Diaby, Douglas Luiz, Pau Torres were on the bench, and they didn't get more than 20-25 minutes game time, and so they'll be fresh for it. I don't think Thursday will have an impact on us, if I'm being totally honest. I think it's an interesting game for Villa. I really do. I think Newcastle and Liverpool are clearly better teams than us, and so we would probably expect to lose there. Maybe not in the fashion we did, but we'd probably expect to lose there. It's not the end of the world if you do lose there, kind of thing. I think this game's interesting. Obviously, Villa won there last season, and I think Villa will be looking at the game as if we want to be back up there in the top 6, top 7 again. This is a game we need to try and get some kind of points out of. I think the one thing you'll see very different, though, is how we set up. I mean, last year when we came to Stamford Bridge, we sort of played a very sort of deep sort of back line. While we were defending at times, it turned into sort of a back 6, and we kind of hit you on the counter attack. It worked perfectly that day. I remember you had something like 19, 20 shots that day, but only 1 or 2 were on target. And Villa did a real job on Chelsea that day. You won't see that on Sunday. Villa won't play like that on Sunday, and it's because over the summer, Emery's kind of developed these sort of tactics into. He wants to control games both at Villa Park and away from home, and I feel like that's kind of set us back a little bit away from home in terms of getting results, because the defence has been a little bit more frail. Obviously, with losing the likes of Mings and Moreno, 2 quite fast players in that system. We've been still trying to play this high line away from home as well as at home, and we have been caught out a few times, if I'm being honest. A few individual errors have led to goals. And so I find it interesting to see how it will go on Sunday. I mean, I've been saying that maybe we do need to go a little bit more pragmatic away from home, away from Villa Park. Maybe we do need to revert back to kind of what we were doing last season. But it doesn't sound like the manager wants to go down that route. He sounds like he's got it in his head. He wants to be this expansive, controlling the ball sort of side. I kind of feel like he's a little bit naive away from home at the top clubs. So I feel like that will potentially give you give you a chance on Sunday. Obviously, we will create chances though. We were a lot more attacking this year, and I think we will create chances. But we haven't been that ruthless though in the last, especially away from home. We haven't been ruthless at all. And so I do think that's where it will give you an opportunity on Sunday. I think you'll score. I think your score is the main thing. But I think,
mate, to be fair, we ain't scored in our last 2 games. Our shooting boots aren't really on. The goal scoring's been a huge problem. Like, we do create quite a large amount of opportunities in games, but we can't stick the ball in the back of the net. So I do think if you get the first goal on Sunday, we're in big trouble because we don't score many ourselves, and we find it really difficult to break teams down at home also. So I think the first goal is really important in this one.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And the first goal is so important to have Villa play as well, because you see Villa get the lead, their confidence sort of flows, and Villa are able to play this very sort of slow build up, passing, possession based sort of game, and it frustrates the opposition that they find it difficult to play against. If Villa go 1-0 down though, which we've had a habit of doing this season, especially away from home last night was a key one. We were 1-0 down after 2 minutes. We don't start very quickly away from home. And the problem is when we do find ourselves 1-0 down, we're quite stubborn in our methods. We all still play this slow build up passing sort of game. And I kind of feel that the opposition finds that a little bit easy to play against. Obviously, when they're winning, it feels like at times we can be a little bit too slow, a little bit too laboured when we're trying to get back into a game. I mean, like Crystal Palace, for instance, last Saturday, Villa were 1-0 down, heading for a defeat. If we're being honest, we'd missed hatfuls of chances in the first half, and the reason why the game turned around on its head was because of an absolute wonder strike from John Duran. And if that one doesn't happen, it was an individual bit of brilliance. If that one doesn't happen, Villa are probably still trying to score now, a week on, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I think some of these games are really interesting. But I definitely think you'll see a different Villa, and whether it clicks into gear and makes that into 3 points for Villa, I'm not sure. I just think that just seeing us at the moment, I think it will click. I think it will click eventually. But I think seeing us at the moment, we are a little bit frail at the back. And I do wonder if Emery does stick with the same system. I do think you might have some kind of joy. And so it depends on what we do at the other end of the field. If we can be ruthless, then I think we've got a decent chance of getting something on Sunday. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting game for both teams. Really, I think it will kind of measure where we both at a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, for us, I think already after 5 games, like, it's must win. We're already 7 points off the Champions League qualification places. Yes, we're still waiting for it to click a little bit, like you are. Obviously, slightly different circumstances with a whole squad pretty much full of new players. It's going to take time, but we also need the results, and we haven't got the results on the board yet. So this is a really important one. I mean, I said it against Bournemouth; it was must win. We didn't win, even though we created enough chances to win. This one again is in the must win category already after 5 games, and it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be tough. I mean, as you say, if you stick with a high line, that's going to give us some opportunities. We do have pace with Enzo Fernandez putting balls over the top from midfield. We do have the pace with the likes of Sterling, Nicholas Jackson, Mudryk if he plays. Maybe Madueke is going to be available again as well. We have got options there to hurt Villa if you play the high line, and we will create chances because we do. It's just a big if. Are we going to have our shooting boots on? That's what makes this game so fascinating. Is that Villa have got decent players. They'll make chances. They'll make things happen, and we'll probably have some chances as well. And I guess it's just going to be who's got their shooting boots on. It's going to have the better of it on Sunday. But mate, just to round out a score prediction, you feeling confident you might get something from the game?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I think the game sort of hangs in the balance a little bit just from what I've said defensively. I do have those concerns defensively, and I've been saying it for a number of weeks now, and I think it will take time to get there. Villa don't draw games is the one thing. We don't draw many games at all, and so it will either be a Villa winner, or a Chelsea, or a Chelsea winner, which I know doesn't really help me. If you were going to press me for a prediction, I could see Villa going there. I think we'll concede, but I think we'll narrowly sneak a 2-1 win, which will obviously be great for Villa. We don't want to come off the back of losing in Poland to then coming to lose at your guys' place on Sunday. So it's a big game, but I'll go with a 2-1.
Yeah, you've always got to back your boys, haven't you? I mean, I'll be honest, like, I would love to back Chelsea, but from what I've seen so far this season, even though we've created chances and we've played well in a lot of the games, we're not sticking the ball in the net, and our home form's not good. I don't have a huge amount of confidence going into this game. So I'm probably going to go with a 1-1 draw. But let's wait and see what happens. I mean, we need to win. I mean, you know, I don't want to think what happens if we were to lose this game. But yeah, I'll go 1-1. I just don't think I still don't think we've got enough, particularly at home, to get the job done. But yeah, mate, thanks so much for your time. If people want to check out more of your guys' content, where should they go?
Yeah, it's just on the Villa on Tour YouTube channel. So yeah, we're a bunch of mates who follow the Villa home and away every week. We've got all the European trips planned. We're in Poland last night. We're heading to AZ Alkmaar in October, and we're heading to Mostar in Bosnia just before Christmas, which should be an interesting one. So yeah, just check out Villa on Tour on YouTube.
Yeah, guys, make sure you check that out. Go and show the guys some support. Subscribe to the channel. It'll be tagged in the title. But yeah, guys, smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new around here. And I'll catch you again in another video soon.